Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of The Mountains We Climb. In each episode, we'll be diving into the mind of someone who has overcome significant challenge and adversity so that we, as the listeners, can get insight into what is really possible and what it really takes. I'm your host, Jordan Kilpatrick Smith, and today we're going to be exploring Benny Clark's journey of mastering his schizoaffective disorder through kayaking so that his illness can now help pave his path forward instead of destroying it. Benny, thank you so much for being here.
How's it going, man? Glad to be here. Kinda like I just gave you a heads up, I'm a little bit fucking dopey right now because of my meds, so bear with me.
It's all good.
Like, I've been up in a while. So.
Just before we get going, I want to remind everyone that you can comment live right below this live video, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Facebook, and we can bring those onto the conversation with us. So without further ado, Benny, can you, where does your journey through all of this start?
My journey pretty much started at a younger age. I started fighting probably about 12, 13 years old with voices and different vision and different ways of seeing and stuff, and never really fit in with other kids. And then, it's just, man, I don't even know. It kind of all over the place. The question is when did I start surviving it? I think,
yeah,
I've suffered a lot of trauma in my life of like violence and drug addiction, trying to stay away from the crap in my head, the shit that was just getting twisted and, not normal.
So can you tell us about that? Like, the people listening might have no idea what it is that, what is schizoaffective disorder? So actually, just to straighten that out a little bit, so me and my psychiatrist, Dr. Perkins, we're still working on exactly kind of what it is. We found good medication, but as of right now, it seems to be on the schizoaffective side of it's pretty much a little bit too much to be bipolar and not enough to be schizophrenia. In basic terms, so I've dealt with voices and paranoia, extreme ups and downs, like really actually. So manic states, manic states are the worst for me. So and manic is when I like disappear. There's nobody. Benny Clark's not there anymore. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hate, and a lot of suicide to try and take myself out, I guess, pretty much. So pretty much, if you understand that, I don't know if that's to put it in terms of the suffering. It's the same as schizophrenia, but not in that really high category. It's not, So yeah, but hearing voices or hallucinating. When did that first show up for you?
I think it's like it started a lot. Those voices of hate on myself and beating myself up, and they started at a younger age. Like from when I first remember, it was like 12 or 13 years old. My first time doing cocaine was at 13 years old. So, and the thing with the drugs was it like shut those voices out. It gave me a break from that. And the longer I went in life, the more I wanted to shut it off. The hate turned into violence. I would fight, a lot of scrapping, a lot of fighting, and I wasn't very good at fighting. I just the next morning when I woke up, the scars and the bruises and the cuts would make me feel alive. So it was just always that, and then the drugs shut it right off. There was just no, and it didn't matter what drugs, it was whatever, except for marijuana. Marijuana would turn it on and make it worse. Yeah.
So what was it like for you when you heard the voices for the first time? Because you had gone, if you're 12 years old, you've lived a little bit of life.
Yeah, I don't like. Sorry, the question was, I lost it there for a sec.
What was it like for you the first time you heard the voices?
Oh, it was fucking terrifying. It was like at 12 or 13 years old when people don't understand you because these things are happening and you're trying to say something about it and you're reacting in different ways that people had never seen before. It was scary because I was all alone. It was like one of those things that at that in that age, in that society. Like, I'm 43 years old now, so
It was that was the fix it or fuck off, or the I don't want to hear about it. If it's not bleeding, I don't want to hear about it. So it was definitely not a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so can you tell us a bit about what it's like to have voices that talk to you and basically shit on you constantly?
You pretty much want to die. It's like having your five best friends sitting beside you, like telling you you're a piece of shit, you suck, you're not good, and one or two of them telling you to do things that isn't good, like the violence and hurting people, that kind of thing. It's like having that little peanut gallery your whole life of you look up to these things, and it's like kind of the only thing that because people aren't around, like people won't be around because you're scaring people, kind of thing. That it's like, it's just, yeah, the description at that age is so hard to put into words.
Yeah. And so you immediately turned to drugs when that started to happen?
Yeah, I was a gymnast, like when I was younger age, and I had really good parents. My parents were, phenomenal. Unfortunately, there was just things that I think most kids like me that went through this, that their parents just didn't know, and I was pretty good at hiding it. Like I was pretty good at shutting down and looking tough and that sort of thing, and so I think it was really hard to just let people know that I was suffering, that there,
Yeah, so you had to suffer from something that's really incredibly challenging that you can't escape from except for drugs all by yourself, right? At a young age when you don't have anyone to talk to about it. Is that right?
Yeah, and that whole "it's not okay to talk about a" thing back then was like, it was real. That was, it's still real to this day, but it's a lot better now. Like I get to travel around and talk about my things with people that I meet, and people actually sit there and listen, and it's one of those things that helps me so much, and if I had gotten to do that when I was younger, I probably would have led a little bit different of a life.
Yeah. And I do want to come back to that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
After we hear your story and where this took you, I do want to come back and say, well, what do we need to change about our system? Right?
Yeah,
how can we understand it better? So, so you made it through high school without, you didn't make it through high school. Okay.
I never went to high school. Yeah, I got kicked out halfway through my my grade 9 year, and my father, like I was starting to get into bad shit and hurting things, and like destroying property and just like all over the place, just mad. And my mom and dad thought it would be better if they got me out of here, and they took me to Australia for we were supposed to go for a year, and I ended up lasting about 4 or 5 months in Australia, and started stealing stuff in Australia and lashing out in Australia, and ended up making the decision at, I think it was 16 or 17, to come home. And then that's when it got into even more shit, and started stealing cars and stuff, and ended up in juvie for a short while, and mom and dad bailed me out and started trying to help me turn my life around, and it seemed to work for a year or two, but it still, I was back on the cocaine or back on whatever.
When you were stealing stuff and destroying property, what was causing that?
Oh, I was definitely, I was causing that, but it again, it was like that release shut my voices off. It made my voices happy, made my things happy in my life, that kind of thing. It made that part of me just kind of like not be so hard on me when I was lashing out. Yeah, so the anger releasing was like that was like the help for me.
Gotcha.
And again, like it was always, I was just picking fights and scrapping and stuff, and that was yeah.
And so do you think, like, I'm hearing from you that the voices and your experience is just really filled with anger, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that if the root of the anger was dealt with, that we could better treat things like schizophrenia or bipolar?
As I started going through, like, I don't think it was
at that time, I don't really even think that the voices were outside of my head. That's the thing about it. As I got older and induced it and made things worse and did the things that fuck your brain up, you know, your chemical imbalances and shit. I think it started turning into something else that it wasn't at first.
Can you tell me more about that?
So at a younger age, like with the voices and stuff, I think it was a lot more inside my head. Like it was a lot of hate on myself and a lot of things going on in myself. And as I started getting older and started doing more drugs and started trying to shut my brain off, it started turning something else on, which I think turned it like those illnesses are built up throughout your life. Like they, you know, typically they kick in a lot older and stuff. So I think if we dealt with the trauma at like 12 years old, 13 years old, you know, and started dealing with it right away, I don't think the self-inducing would have been there to turn it into a lot worse. The hiding it, like, you know, the like just build it just builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up. And like I didn't really fall until like five years ago. I thought dealing with it pretty good. Like I was still pretty strong, you know, I had a good life. I was working up north and that kind of shit. And then it just like it snapped. And it was actually like I separated from my wife at the time, and that's kind of what pushed everything over the edge. But those voices I was dealing with later on that were actually outside of my head, and they're actually like there, but there's a lot of inducement in that as well. So if I stayed away from the drugs and all that stuff, I think it would have been a lot different, you know?
So am I understanding it right that this illness, this mental health illness develops, and then it's through the actions in our lives that it continues to develop?
I think so. Yeah. Like that's what in my head, that's what I think. And I think there's a lot of things in my life that I did that induced it. There's definitely, you know, and that's definitely a lot more on me than it is anybody else. But the idea of it starting at that, no, you can't talk about this, you have to bottle this up and fucking hide it and be tough and be a man, and you know, the idea of that is where it starts. And that's where it builds and builds and builds, right? If I could have fucking talked about it, I think it would have been a lot different. Because now, like, I talk about my shit and it's pretty good. Like I got dark humor. I crack jokes about, you know, I fuck with my head a little bit and play around. Like there's no one as like Benny and Benny and the Six in the kayaking, you know, like it's just like there's like, and I'll like start yelling at voices on the river once in a while, you know, just fucking around. And so it's a lot better now because I get to talk about it. Like I get to just like do even just things like this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a lot more stable. I'm proud of who I am now, and I'm proud to fucking hurts. You know,
And
and accepting is moving forward with that. And I think in order to move forward with what we have and how to live, we need to accept the fact that yeah, it's there, it's fucking real, it's going to be a part of our life. So there's no point in hiding from it. So
yeah. And okay, so I want to come back to that as well. The talking about and how we effectively manage it, right? You going back to your journey. So you were 16, 17, you decided to leave Australia because you were dealing with these mental health issues by letting anger out through destruction, through fighting, through drugs, or rather the drugs were to numb the voices. Is that right?
Yeah. And when I came back, I immediately got back in cocaine at 17 years old, or so, yeah. And I just started just doing shit. Like I lived on the streets for a while. Kind of came back and had a hard time with my brother. He was supposed to kind of take me in, and I was supposed to be able to like stay with him for a while and stuff. And that lasted like a week, and it that ended up putting me on the street pretty much, and living there and trying to find ways to live and stuff like that. And that's kind of, that was, you know, stealing cars was a little bit of money and that kind of thing. And that of course didn't work out because even in that world, I lashed out and it didn't work very well with other people and stuff. And then like, yeah, I got busted and
went to juvie, and kind of that opened up my eyes, and then
what was juvie like for you? Can you describe that?
it's same as being in life. It was the exact same. Didn't fit in. Didn't nobody wanted me around. Like it was just just the way it was. It wasn't hard. It wasn't. I was only in there for a little bit. Like it wasn't. It wasn't. It was the exact same as being outside. I might as well have just been at school. I just said there was no talking with other people. I was a loner. People didn't understand me, that kind of shit. So.
And how did you? Because there's one thing to have your internal voices that never shut off, constantly putting you down, but then also to have everyone outside of you, both you push them away and they push you away, and you are completely isolated. Like for a human being, that's awful.
Yeah, it is, and that's I think also what induced it to become more than what it was, because it, like the inside voices in your head, you're lonely, and I'm working like trying to have. If you're like people around you all the time that don't want to be around you, or you're not friends with anybody, or you're outside the group, I think a lot of things get induced that come out of your head, and you actually put them outside of you. So you're not, you have a way of coping with being lonely. You have a way with, not being, yeah, these things hate me too, but guess what? They're here all the time. And, it wasn't hard to allow them to be a part of my life. That was the thing. Fuck yeah. It's kind of it's really hard to explain.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, that I think it's all inducement is really a lot of what happened with me. Is I did a lot of it. There's a lot of things that, even with head traumas, like, just from fighting or
Right.
snowboarding, or just like it take a lot of risks, but they looked like a lot of risks, but I was very calculated. I didn't, so it, yeah.
Okay. So everything up to this point has been like, so there was trauma early in life, and then this illness manifested, and then because there was no one to help you deal with it, there was no talking about it, there was no, I need help here. So you found outlets.
Yep.
And then, okay,
And
so you got,
yeah, those outlets lasted till at least 29.
and so drugs, you mentioned cocaine a few times.
Yeah, cocaine was the main one. It was the easiest one to get for me. Oh, I was kind of selling it and stuff, so it was very easy to pay for my habit and stuff.
Yeah. So, and then you got into stealing. I'm assuming vandalism based on what you said.
Yeah.
Fighting. Okay. And so this lasted all the way up to 29.
Pretty much, yeah. I scrapped all the time, like up until about 29 years old. And that was when I kind of found the river. I found kayaking. And it's a pretty big gap in there in my life. And it's actually a pretty big, boring gap. There's actually just like going to work and getting stoned is pretty much what I did for a long time. I just sat around and tried to find work, tried to find jobs, but just back and forth and just like always getting fucking high.
Yeah.
Head off and going to the bar and, getting my ass kicked or kicking ass, Typically that's was like from 18 till 20 or till 29. So
yeah,
which is pretty funny because it seems like there'd be a lot more story involved there, but there was a lot of fucking just sitting back and thinking I was okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then 29, you find the river, right?
Yeah, 29, I found kayaking. I pretty much made the kind of one of my life. I got pissed off with one of my buddies, and it's hard on them. So I ended up buying a van and moving to my uncle's property out in Sundre, and fucking lived on his farm and barbed wire fenced for a few years. And that summer, at least, like that summer, and kayaking every day after work.
Right.
I went down the river and I'd go kayaking, and 6 o'clock in the morning I'd get up and I'd go kayaking in the morning. I'd go to work, and I just ran barbed wire fence. And yeah, that's pretty much the first season of kayaking was when I was 29, like that. So
yeah,
didn't really find the river at that point. Like I found the love of the sport, but I didn't find the peacefulness of the river with my head. It didn't shut it off at that point. It just it was just a way of being healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
And
and then Sorry, continue.
Sorry, go ahead. And then like at that time, after that year, I did like 209 days on the river, and I was still partying at night but I wasn't sleeping. Like I was doing like an hour of sleep at night, which is like savage. Like I don't even know how I survived it. Cause like an hour of sleep, or I wouldn't sleep for a day or 2 days or 3 days. And my no sleep started getting worse and worse. And again, I think that's an inducement of like, you probably know, like lack of sleep is like fucking detrimental to our brain, man. Like we need sleep. It's the way it is. I'd go sometimes up to 5-6 days, no sleep.
Wow.
And working and partying and kayaking, working, partying, sometimes kayaking in there twice. And like, it was fucking, I don't know how I survived it. Cause it should have been a lot different, but I do think that I'm a very high functioning, addict of. And like I said, I'm not an addict of the age drug. It didn't matter what drug I did. If it shut my head off, I was okay with it. And cocaine when I was young wasn't
not nice.
head off, but I was able to sleep sometimes, like an hour. It wasn't the cocaine that kept me awake. It was my brain that kept me awake. So
right.
It was kind of like a lot of things are different for me, like uppers are downers and downers are uppers. So I did some heroin back in the day, and I'd go dancing at the club. It was a lot. It was like I'd see other people do heroin and they'd pass right the fuck out, and I'd be out going to the bar dancing. So it was a lot. Things were a lot different, and even seeing that with other people, me being so much different is hard on your head alone. Just like, why is this so much different for me? Why am I fighting so hard? Why do these drugs not do what they're supposed to do for me?
Right.
So a lot of bouncing around from drug to drug to try and just fucking shut that head off. So
yeah. And then where did the first suicide attempt come in?
November 2015, I stepped off the chair and hung myself. And when I came to, I had a busted 4x4. I had a cut on the back of my head, busted 4x4, like pressure treated wood. It shouldn't have fucking broke. It should have held. And I'm a knot guy. I grew up climbing. Like I know how to tie knots. I'm not, knots don't come undone. And this pressure treated 4x4 was like on the back of my head, and my 2 dogs were in front of me, and I was in my trailer, and I was convinced that somebody tried to kill me. Like somebody set it up, that it was not. Yeah, because I pissed a lot of people off in my life. So, and then the paranoia with all the shit as I got older, paranoia, like really, going to manic states, and I think that the whole world was after me, and so yeah, it took like a month of people talking to me and telling me, no, this is suicide, and talking and getting shown what happened. And I was in the grocery store one day, and I still to this day I suck at grocery shopping. Like if I walk by the bananas or the fruit or whatever, I'll curl up in a ball and have an anxiety attack. Like it hits me like a rock. And I think that's because of my suicide, because that's where I first got the first flashback of me stepping off the chair.
Right.
And it was about a month later, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But it was like me stepping off the chair 1,000 times in 1 second. It was just like boom, 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 boom in my head. And it just like, and that's when I started noticing that it was me that stepped off that chair. It was me that tried to, it was me that I started getting flashbacks of me buying the 4x4, me getting the rope, me tying the knots, me like started getting all of that in this like a post-traumatic stress fucking like uppercuts to the face, kind of thing. And then that was savage. That was like to learn that was me. I went my whole life believing that like suicide was shameful, it was weak, it was, all this shit. And I went my whole life believing that, it was selfish. It was like you're taking so much away from other people, and that kind of thing. And on that day when that anxiety kicked in, that my mind fucking changed about suicide. It did. I couldn't believe that I actually did that. I couldn't, it was like to be, and at that point again, I still had kind of the same train of thought of like, I'm so weak. I'm so, I even had people messaging, like when I came out about it, I even had like, even one of my cousins said, that's not you. I would have been so pissed at you that you're not that weak. And it was just like,
even that sentence right there from somebody else just kind of, that like seals the deal on the fact that it is, you know, this, what we know is not what is true. There's so many different things with suicide that I've learned now. And yeah, there is people that wanna, that have just had enough of this life, that just, they're fucking done. They don't want nothing to do. And there is people that fully understand what they're doing. There's also another, there's reaching out attempts. And then there's another side where you have no clue that you are the one doing that. You have no clue that, like, when it happens to me, I go manic. I'm in a manic state and I like disappear. I'm like gone. It's not me anymore. And that like, once I found that out, it was like a whole new ball game for me, because I realized how blind I was my whole life to the things that we didn't understand. And I was totally fucking blind to it.
So can you tell us more about like these manic states?
Like the anxiety?
So wait, you mentioned that you go into a manic state and then it's like Benny Clark is gone.
Yeah, those are the times where like it can even happen when things are going really good in my life. And that's what a lot of things that people don't realize too. These manic states, you literally just like, you get going so much, like everything just hits and peaks, and it's just like you don't know who you are. Like it's just like uncontrolled actions, like, you know, extreme gambling, or like fucking, you know, like extreme party. Just like you just go away that you don't know. Like it just like I'm just gone. I don't remember any of it until a month later, you know, after I come out of it. But it takes time to remember something. And there's some things that I don't remember, you know, that people will tell me. And that's like the time that I fully believe people, you know, like my friends. That's when I kind of, you know, if I'm with my buddies and shit happens like that, you know, I fully trust in them to let me know, you know, so I can work through it with whatever's happened, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like there's one time I fell asleep, or I woke up in the morning and my buddy was on my couch, and I was like, man, what are you doing here? And he's like, dude, you know, like we were at the casino last night. I had to drag you out there. I'm like, what? It's like, I was on my parents for dinner. I never went to the fucking casino. And then he literally, I had to sit down and I had to look at my credit card. And at the point at that time I was working up north, and I'd spent over $10,000 at the fucking casino. And I didn't remember a clue of it. Like I was just like, so, but then later on, again, like I get this almost post-traumatic stress of it coming back to me and getting it back. But it takes time and it takes people to help me out. Some of the stuff I never get back, I guess, like from earlier in life. And I guess it could have happened lots when I was younger, you know, growing up, because there is, you know, parts of my life where I went to the bar, I wasn't even drunk, and I don't remember leaving. I don't remember, you know, that kind of thing. So
for people, like
Sorry,
most people never experience what you're talking about, right? Where like your conscious mind just disappears. So I'm trying to understand what that's like. Would it be anything like when you get like blackout drunk and you just like aren't really there anymore and you're just kind of acting?
I guess it could be. I really, that is the one part of it that I do not, like, I do everything in my power to stay the fuck out of that state. I do everything in my power, because number one, I don't want to die. And that's when I go the most suicidal. Like in my depression, I can handle waking up. I can handle, like, I need to get on the river. I know I'm suicidal right now. I know I'm suffering. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to get my feet off this. I need to get my ass. I understand that part of it. And I've worked hard on being able to like just get my butt out of bed, to even just get outside and just go for a walk. But in those states, I have no decision making to do those things. And that's when I go. So I do everything in my power to stay out of that. It's probably one of the hardest things to understand about the illnesses that we have, you know. And it's like I honestly, I can't tell you exactly what it's like, because I just, all I know is there's time that I lose. And then when I get it back, I get back the things that had happened. And getting it back later really fucking sucks, because like when you're getting it back, it seems like that you had full control when it was going on while you're getting it back. And that's the thing, like it's still me. It's still, you know, I guess it could be like a blackout. It could be,
you know, like waking up in the morning going, what the fuck happened at the bar last night?
Yeah.
Or waking up beside some chick that you're just like, I'm, you know, don't remember this shit, right?
Yeah.
You know, that shit. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that could be a good way to put it, I guess. But
Yeah.
without without the support, that's the, back when it was happening, you know, your buddy got blackout drunk. You always supported him the next day. You helped him out. You know, I didn't get that with this shit.
Right.
That's the, I think, the difference of it. There wasn't that fucking support there to say, hey, yeah, you know, you weren't even told that, yeah, you fucked up last night and, you know, you got your ass kicked or you beat somebody up. You know, I had to kind of wait for that to
Right.
get that. So yeah.
So am I understanding right that you entered a manic state, and then in that state, because there was none of that conscious, rational thought, it was like, I'm gonna go kill myself. And it was like in one state you went.
Yeah, it's literally, I think it's just, I think it's just, I've had enough of, I think I just had enough. I think in that state, I think my brain just gives up. It just like, fuck you, I'm done. I want nothing more to do with this. And I think that's what happens. It's pretty, yeah, man. It's so hard to be able to just like, to put it there. It's a feeling of loss, like a loss of just everything around you, life, you know, that kind of thing. And like, it's a feeling of like dissolution. I don't even know like the good word for like just a feeling of being lost. And it's just like, you had enough. Like, I don't want this fucking anymore. I don't want to have to fucking wake up in the morning and like have to explain to people what like your head was going through last night, or, you know, something like that. It's like it's a part of that flu that just fucking is never ending, and it's always there. It's that sick feeling in your stomach, like, am I gonna be alive tomorrow when I'm, you know? And it's not a good fucking feeling, man. It's the hardest place to be, I think. So
That's okay, man.
I haven't had your it's yeah, that's the deepest, darkest one. That's the one that no matter what, it's just a fucking shitty feeling. You just don't want to be here anymore. You don't, you know, you think people hate you. You think you're doing people a favor by releasing them of your problems and your illness. And it's like one of those things that is actually one of probably the most like to me, or to the people that I've talked to, it's like, it's the unselfish act, whereas it looks like it's the selfish act from the other side. It's
Right.
like, just I'm causing too many problems as it is, and people would be better off to just, you know. So yeah.
Thank you for being raw with us and sharing this insight, because we just don't get it in society. Like, we don't receive this in normal society, right? Like, I think there's so much miscommunication around it that people just don't know.
I think there's a lot out there. I think it starts with education. That's the biggest problem is our education system fucking sucks. You know, like, yeah. That's I think it needs to start there. It needs to start with the kids, and it needs to start with like, because like I'm not like, the suicide I didn't fight until later on in my life. I know there's fucking kids out there that fight that shit in like early age of their, you know, like at 11 years old, 12 years old, that don't survive. They end up losing their life to it because of this fix it or fuck off, you know, like this. It's not bleeding. I don't want to hear about it crap. And it's just like, it's you're a man, you're tougher than that. And, you know, we're probably like, women are way stronger than us. I'm not saying that they don't go, like, they go through this shit, but, you know, like, you get this kid that falls, little boy, you know, like, one person comes over and helps him up, brushes him off, and it's not bleeding. I don't want to fuck, whatever. Okay, walk it off. This little girl falls, same age. She wipes out. and like 7 people will come running to help her out. And I guarantee you that girl is way tougher and more capable of dealing with that. Women were built for, they give birth, for crying out loud. Like it's, they're, and like I said, I'm not taking away, like women can suffer in way more ways than we can, or vice versa. I'm not saying that they don't suffer. They definitely do still. We all have the capability of fucking suffering. But at that age, we're not supposed to have this, like, you're a man crap. Like you're, and that, like I'm against, I'm sorry about the language, but like, fuck you. Like that is literally my response. Like I see my brother do that with his nephews years ago. And it's just like, dude, man, like the same thing happened to us, and it sucked. So why you now, like it's just not, we shouldn't have to live with that crap. Like if you need to talk about something, then talk about it, release it. Like what happens when we build that shit up, you like build it up. And well, guess what comes out? Not just one lion out of the cage, like multiple animals come flying out, and it can be different levels, So
the education around mental illness, you're saying start from a young age so that people understand that this is a possibility, and if you're going through it, talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
We need support.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100%. I think where it can all start, and it can also start with parents at home. It can start with, even when you got the best parents in the world, like I do, there's still parts of life that they didn't give me to help me survive.
Can you give examples so that parents at home can understand?
Like mom and dad can like, we have something rad called the internet now, where you can pretty much read up on anything. You can study stuff. You can, like if you're seeing, like, none of that self-diagnosis crap. Like that's like way too far. But you can educate yourself on, how to just even see maybe symptoms of it. Maybe something's happening, and then you can also learn way more in depth with that. You can understand, there's over 100, like 120 illnesses or something. Like there's so many illnesses that you can just go on there, and we all get to read. So why not just jump on Google for a little bit and do a little bit of research, and maybe that'll help your kid. Because when they ask about, I'm doing this, I've got mom, I'm hearing these voices kind of thing. Mom can say, okay, well, cool. Let's fucking figure that out. Let's take you to a doctor like we do for that leg, and let's fucking see what's going on, And it can be a process. It's a lot harder to go through mental stuff, I think, than physical. I can take a shit kicking now because of the mental pain I've suffered. Like I paddle with ribs. I've trained with broken fingers. Like I just tape them up. Physical pain isn't as much to me anymore because of that mental illness, or dealing with that life. But it's still something that can be attacked at a younger age, that we can. And even if you're not sick at a younger age, and it gets, you make poor decisions in your life and induce it, or if you turn out and you like, something's induces where you end up getting schizophrenia. I have a cousin that has schizophrenia, like savage, and it before it was too late. You need to kind of catch it. So us educating ourselves can catch these at a younger age, where we might be able to save some of our lives. And we might be able to have a healthy life, that kind of thing, instead of doing 20 years on every drug known to man, and then fighting with fucking savage voices that you just like, that you are probably a part of, that kind of thing. So
and there were multiple suicide attempts, right? And were those all from manic states?
Every single one of those except for one. So there was 3 in manic state, and 1 where I was fully aware of what was going on, and that was end of August last year. I lost my dog Digit, who was like my best friend. I might not make it through this part. Digit was like my best friend and my dopey mental health dog that just, when I woke up in the morning and looked at his face, he gave me meaning, gave me like yeah, cool, man, let's go for a run, let's go for a swim, let's go for a kayak, whatever, and he was pretty well loved in the kayaking world in Canada and in Colorado and stuff, and I had a meeting with a doctor's appointment for my disability check, pretty much, and they wanted to do like a 6-hour doctor appointment, and my Volkswagen van blew the transmission in it,
just outside of Canmore, and my parents ended up coming to help me out. And there's also inducements from other people that can happen. And I was getting induced into Manic, and it wasn't her fault because she didn't know at the time, but like she wasn't familiar enough with dealing with Manic state. So
Who's she?
well, I'll get to that
Okay.
point. Yeah, I'll definitely tell you that. So as I'm dealing with that with this lady from RBC, she's my the person I don't know what they're called, but she's the one I deal with, and I'll leave her name out. Like I said, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't want to, And she at that time, I'm pretty understanding about shit. Like she was still learning how to deal with people like me, and she was pushing hard, telling me if I didn't get to the doctor, I was going to lose my check right away, blah, 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 blah. I'm pretty much getting a little bit too far, and it actually induced me. So I ended up having to double medicate, and I fell asleep beside the van with Digit laying beside me. My parents left for like 10 minutes, and 10 minutes later, my dad got back. Digit was gone. And I was out of it. Like I was, double medicated, I'm no longer dopey. I'm just I'm a zombie, and I'm can't figure it out. And Digit was found on the highway, run over by multiple vehicles. And it ended up being a pretty bad time for me. Cause that was, like I said, that was my best friend and stuff. And after we got him off the road, I tried carrying him, and I tried, it wasn't good. There was a lot of hate, and I went after another vehicle and stuff. And there was, I was fucking done with people at that point. Cause I just lost all faith in them. Cause to keep running over an animal on the road is just and the guy that hit him drove the vehicle up and went up in the bush and hit it up off the road. So it didn't get, kind of thing. And after that, I was done. I wanted nothing to do with people. I wanted nothing to do with anything. And at this point in the story, there was problems with meth was the easiest to shut my head off. So after a few days after that, 3 days after that, I bought a bag of meth and fucking got fucking stoned for a couple of days, and then went to a Spilly Machine River. It's called. It's just outside of Golden, BC, just south of Golden. And it's a class 5. It's got lots of drops on it. It's this really short run, but it's got all class 5 drops. And I went in there at almost double the flow that anybody runs it at, and fully expecting not to get off the river, not wanting, I set my truck up to be a certain way when it was found. There was a note there. There was pretty much saying I was done. I'm going to see my dogs. I'm going to see Digit and Loki, and I've had enough of this place, And I got on the river, and that fucking river had a totally different idea. That river fucking, I paddled some stupid shit. It was huge, and it was crazy. It was insane, and no pun intended on those words. It was really, really big. The closest, probably another 30-40% off of it is the closest that I paddled it before. So it was just, and I pretty much got out the bottom, and I turned around in the river, and I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
The river had a totally different idea for me.
So you had gone in, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was the only time I've ever consciously tried to take my own life, consciously. Yeah, that won't happen again either. Pretty much the river showed me that she's not going to take me in that state.
Yeah.
She's going to push me on the other side. No, if you're going to be like that, get out of here. I don't want you.
Yeah. So you went in and you were like, I'm just going to do this crazy fucking one last bang, one last hurrah, and then the river spits you out the other end, and it's no.
Yeah. If you're not a kayaker, I could sit here and explain the rapids and stuff like that. But if you're not a kayaker, you're not going to really understand much of what I'm saying. And anybody that is listening that's a kayaker or whatever, they're going to understand. They're going to know Spilly Machine. Yeah, they're going to be okay. So it just, we go in cubic meters for flow, and typically that run is run from 12 CMS to 25ish and CMS, and that's it's a very tight small canyon, but that water's cranking, and I was in it at 38 CMS.
Right. So this is how much water is flowing through per second.
Yeah. It's
gotcha.
there's like the second last drop, and I got through that one. It was because the last drop is just a straightforward 20 footer, 25 footer, and the second last drop is one of the burliest, and it was just like it like spit me out the other end of that, and I was just like, get out of here, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you for sharing that. And so so you come out on the other side of that, and what is next for you? Where does this take you now?
that pretty much took me to a chair and a couple of whiskeys, sitting by the fire for about 4 days by myself, wondering what the fuck. Like,
Mhm.
I was pissed at myself. I was so mad at myself because I just used what I believed to be my savior, the river, and I just used it to try and kill myself. And I was pretty fucking mad at myself. This has always been my safe place. It's always been where I love, my passion, everything around it, the people around it, everything is amazing around it. And I just used that to try and take myself out consciously.
Mhm.
And all the work that I had done over the past few years was pretty much shattered in my head. You know, it was like this, why? It was just like this feeling of just losing everything. And then the hard work that I put into myself pretty much just like you jackass, like why all the shit that you've been working on to not to do this unconsciously, and now here you are doing it consciously,
Right.
you know. And I it gave me some empathy to other people that do it when they're conscious and they know they're doing it. I fully get what it's like to just be done with this fucking place, because after I lost Digit, I was done.
Yeah.
There was nothing in this world that was going to keep me here except the river, I guess. In a way, I'm kind of glad I chose the river, though, on that note, because the river pretty much pushed me out the other side. And if I chose something else, it might have worked a lot better than being in the state where, you know, not making 100% decisions something's going to fail. And in that, you know, there's something that you're going to choose wrong or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. But whereas 100% conscious, you're going to make every detail right. And I think with the river, that I think I paddled it that I shouldn't have absolutely. But I think making that conscious decision to use the river was also a conscious decision not to fully go out, I guess.
Right.
Kind of a 50-50. If I make it through the bottom, sweet. If I don't, then, well, sweet.
Yeah. And so now you're a guide for people as they go down the river. And you mentioned at the beginning, like you'll like yell at your voices and you kind of play, you know, like it almost sounded like you're playing with it, right?
I play with like I worked with a shaman for a little while, for a couple of years. Like I was using peyote once a month for 2 years, and it's like a 3-day like hallucination, like I guess a flood dose, and it helped me out a lot. I worked with ibogaine as well, and that helped me a lot on my medication side. Not as much. It helped me like kind of have these pathways in my brain that weren't just crashing into a halt. You know, it kind of helped me realign stuff and kind of gave me the ability to deal with a lot more stuff. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there.
That's okay.
Sorry, that happens when sometimes. Oh yeah, I was about okay. The voices on the river. I got it, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I totally went to like left field in my brain there. Yeah, so and like the voices on the river. It's like I'm working with a shaman. He taught me that these were the voices are angry. They're violent. They're hard on you because you don't understand the translations. They're connections to a different place. And this might sound like totally out there, but it works for me. So I've become a believer in, if it works for you, then go for it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they're like messages or conversations or whatever you want to call them, that whether it's a conduit or whatever, I'm not understanding it, and it's stopping at me, and it needs to be passed on, or it needs to be understood so it can keep going. And that's helped me out a lot, because all those voices aren't angry anymore. They're not like telling me to, you know, cook up a calf muscle or like being fucking wild and stuff like that. They have conversations just like this. So the odd time on the river, you'll see me crack off at them, just because it's just like they're excuse me, they're heckling, like they're, you know, like I'll do something silly and and I'll roll up and they'll be just cackling at me like, the 5 peanut gallery,
Yeah.
going like that. So it's been a benefit to me on the river because they've never steered me wrong on the river. It seems like I have 6 different things that pretty much 6 different opinions on how to run a line, and sometimes they're wrong, sometimes it's not the best, but I'm a very unorthodox kayaker too, so there's a lot of things that I do that those help me with, that most people, they see and they're like, what, wow, that was not the exact same. That's not what everybody else does on that.
Right.
Because typically kayaking, there's like in a class 5 rapid, there's like one line that everybody runs. My lines are usually different.
Right.
So it work with the water a lot different. It's very spiritual for me. It's very healing. Every time I see a launch in my boat and hit the water, whether it's on flat water or class 2 or class 5, or if I'm sitting at the top of a waterfall, it's all, everything aligns. Everything just like, it just grows into each other, and it feels like it's one. It's like the only place where I feel like I'm at home, where I feel 100% well, and it doesn't judge. It kicks your ass when you need it, and it lets you succeed when you need it. It humbles you when you don't want to be humbled. But yeah,
Hey,
living with voices on the river is like phenomenal. It's like a place where I'm blessed.
all right. Hopefully we're back.
You're back. I was trying to talk to people a little bit, but I don't know if they could. I was still live apparently, so I was saying hi. And
Oh my gosh. Come on.
you're crashing again. This is exactly what happens in my head. It's the feeling of oh shit, something's happening.
All right.
There you go.
On the iPad. Hopefully we can continue this going.
I was just saying to the camera there, that's like typically how my head works. Like that total scatterness of like, oh fuck, something's about to happen, and then getting shut down.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so while we're letting that do its thing, what advice would you give to people who are struggling with mental health issues, or the family of people who are struggling with mental health issues?
To people that are struggling with mental health issues, find something you love. Find a passion. Whether it's doing models, painting, kayaking, ice skating, running. Well, don't run. Running sucks. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, like find something that you can help fill that void that's never going to be filled. There's it seems like I found that I have this void in me that is just always there. Nothing fills it. Kayaking doesn't fill it. It's just like this part of me that's empty, that it's almost like a non-existent. There's a part that's like this little black hole that doesn't exist. And it's not where the heart, because we love deep. Like people with mental illnesses, like we love hard, we love deep, we care, it looks like we don't because of how we are allowed to raise with it, live with it. But find a passion, find something that helps you out. It could be church, for Christ's sake. Like it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's positive in your life and it allows you to help define yourself instead of your mental illness defining you. That's like kayaking for me. I paddle 250 days a year. You don't have to do it to the extreme that I do it. This is what I need for me. That's why I'm trying to work in kayaking. I want to guide and stuff like that. You can do it on the weekends. You can still work Monday to Friday. Depending on you, just do your best not to let it get too far where you can't help yourself. And to the families that stand beside the people that are suffering, just sometimes we just need to be heard. Sometimes you just need to sit down and close that mouth and don't tell us what we need to do. Just listen, sit back and enjoy the talk, because it's probably going to be pretty fun later on. At that point, it might not be, but usually when we get to talk about it, we become more lively, we become more functional, we become more open to a lot more things, and just try to get understanding, empathy. Empathy is key for people like me. If people don't have empathy and there's zero understanding, it's like it's just not, it's not going to work. Like because you're not going to sit and listen. You're not going to understand what they're saying. You're not going to accept that, yeah, we're fucking different, you know? And I think mom and dad are one of my keys for me. I was blessed with having a mom and dad that are still together. They're still happily married. And I know I have a lot of friends that weren't blessed with that. And that can be a hard in itself. So just having a support network for that person that is suffering and help them get that support network if they can. If you can get a support network, then help them. I get it through kayaking. That's why I love kayaking so much, is because people sit at the fire and they listen. They ask questions. You know, do the same thing that we're doing now. You know, that I talk about this so much now that it's so good for my mental, my health, that it's. I was talking about this last night, sitting with one of my buddies at a fire just outside of, north of Revy, before I came into town to do this podcast, and it was odd. He was talking about his, and I was listening, and I was talking about, there's a fire full of 12 people, so there's a support network is really, really a huge key, because we're lonely, man. We've been alone a long time, and it's time that we don't want to be alone. We don't want to, so.
Yeah. So showing up and just listening, right? Not having to try to fix anything, but just showing up and really genuinely listening to what you or anyone else who's struggling is going through.
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah. But showing up, that's actually a great way to put it. I've never actually, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Just fucking show up. Come to the hockey game like you're coming fully geared up, and get ready for a good game.
Yeah. Awesome. And where can people find you? If people want to reach out, follow you, or ask you questions, or talk to you, where can they find you?
They can find me in the bush anywhere if they're out and about. I live out of my van. I'm on the road, but no, they can find me at the League of Beautiful Minds on Instagram. I actually just deleted my Facebook 3 weeks ago, and I fully deleted it. And that's actually pretty cool, because I was going through triggers in my diary, and that was a huge one. And the 3 weeks ago, I got rid of it. And my days have been a lot different.
Nice.
So I post on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I'd be happy to chat with people. Send me a message on Instagram, and if I'm in internet quite often, but not often. I do my best to answer those calls, or those messages as soon as possible. Yeah, that's pretty much the way to get a hold of me. And then after that, I can, chat with you and stuff. And if there's more contact, there can be. I'm very, very careful too, as well. People out there listening, kind of thing. Like, if there is any, I'm very, very, if there's any bad situations, or if you're in duress or whatever, please contact the right people. Like, you can reach out to me, we can chat, we can do whatever. But if you're in a state of emergency or anything like that, please, that you need to reach out to the right people, and I can help you do that if you're in that, but I can't help once you're there. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of people reach out to me as a crisis center, like a hotline. I'm not that. I'm not trained for that. I can do whatever I can do. Like, I can send you in the right direction. I've got a lot of contacts. I've got a lot of people that can help. But please, if you are in that state, then yeah, do the right things for yourself, and go right to the source for those. But other than that, I'd be happy to chat with people. Happy to, hang out. I'm always around. I'm always, like, North America. I'm usually in the States right now, in Colorado, hanging out with my crew there. But with COVID, this crazy weird COVID. Yeah. It's funny. I have to say this, like, everybody thought I was fucking crazy. And then COVID came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So just before we finish up, we got a message from Jake, and he says, loves your story. Thank you for sharing. Really wants to acknowledge how strong you are, and says, hang in there.
I appreciate it, man. Much love to that, for sure. That's thanks for listening.
Benny, thank you so much for being here, sharing your story, and helping us to understand what it was like for you and what it is like for you to continue living this life. I encourage you, as the listener, to think of someone who might benefit from hearing this episode, because mental health, I think, as we've discussed, Benny, is really important to be talking about. When it's getting bottled up, it doesn't serve anyone. And so I encourage you to think, who can I share this with so that they can benefit from it too?
Awesome.
I will see everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
I just have one more thing to say. Please, 110%. In the end, it is 100% up to you to get help. It's not on anybody else. We need to not allow these things to define us, and we need to 100%. It's on us, and our lives are on us. Yeah, like this is on us, and we need to do the right things to build a life where we can be healthy.
Yeah.
And that's again on us. It's nobody else's fault. We can do a lot of blame because of our traumas. We can do a lot of this, a lot of that, but we need to accept that and move it and get forward so we can be healthy, so we can live our lives good. So
Yeah. I love that note, Benny. It's so important that we take responsibility for our lives, right? Whatever situation we might find ourselves in. Thank you. And I will see everyone next week.
thanks, man. Much love.